It was the second season of me taking over the coaching career of Deion Sanders, aka Coach Prime. And after falling short of the Pac-12 championship in the playoffs last year, we were on a mission. Shedeur was going into his junior season, and our star running back Deion Smith was a senior. We would end up with a top 10 recruiting class, which was highlighted by this 6'6", 220-pound 5-star free safety, Brian Ryan, a guy with 2 first names. It was huge seeing sophomore Jordan Tyson rise up to the occasion after Montana Lemonius declared for the draft last season, since I wasn't sure where we were going to replace all that lost production. And it was going to be critical that the defense played a huge part in our success this season. After another Jordan Tyson touchdown, we would go into the half on pace for 100 points. But we would end up taking our foot off the gas because we would only score 72. We traveled to take on number 4 Illinois, and we were ready for a dogfight. Because on the first drive of the game, Shedeur would throw an interception, which would lead to a field goal opportunity, but I'm pretty sure their kicker's a walk-on, because this would be his first make out of 3 attempts. And after getting stuffed on 3rd and goal, we'd kick our field goal and watch them miss another one. I'm pretty sure he got cut after this game. After Shedeur came out of the game with the strained pec, JT Shrout came in and delivered a strike to put the first touchdown on the board for us. And it didn't help that JUCO transfer Ahmad Brooks didn't go for this pass that got intercepted. Illinois was starting to make some big plays and even went up and mossed my guy on this one. However, the defense adopted a bend don't break mentality, and with all these big plays, we would still hold them to a field goal. We would make sure to ride Deion Smith's victory. Pause. And it was good to see Jordan Tyson continue his dominance from last week as he would connect on this 40-yard touchdown and make circus-type catches like this one here, as we would go on to dominate number 4 ranked Illinois 34-6. After blowing out number 4 ranked Illinois last week, we would earn our first ranking of the year, and we were taking on a tough, hard-nosed, physical Notre Dame team who prided themselves on stopping the run and establishing the ground game, which is why this interception was so big as they were looking to go up by 14 on us in the first half. So instead, we would drive the length of the field and tie it up at 7 just before the half. I knew the second half was going to be just as physical as the first one, if not more, which is why after that 3 and out, I gave my team a speech, and I told them there was no way we were going to let some leprechauns beat us. And that's when both sides of the ball really started to turn it up, and we would take a 14-point lead on the Irish. But Notre Dame wouldn't go down without a fight, and they were doing everything in their power to make sure I wouldn't get my hands on their lucky charms. I can tell that Notre Dame was starting to get desperate as they went for it on 4th down from their own 35, and there was no way they were going to be able to stop our offense after we had caught fire, and we would end up doubling up the Irish 42-21 as Shedeur would try to get everyone involved and spread the love by completing passes to 9 different receivers. After another dominating performance last week, we would find ourselves ranked in the top 10 after JUCO transfer Ahmad Brooks would take the opening kickoff for a touchdown. I felt like we had all 3 phases of the game figured out, but Arizona State was trying their hardest to make sure they wouldn't get embarrassed like our last 3 opponents. This interception certainly wasn't ideal, and after a couple of early hiccups, our offense would finally start to find its stride. And let's be honest, Arizona State's known for partying, not football, so I was not worried about this one. Shedeur was really starting to come into his own this season, extending plays with his legs by rolling out and hitting open receivers, and if no one was there, running it in himself. And even though we kept finding Jordan Tyson for big plays, I started to feel like our offense was getting a little too one-dimensional as we were riding him and Deion Smith heavy. Pause. Which is why I was excited in the second half we would get our tight ends involved, especially Caleb Fourier, son of former Patriot tight end Christian Fourier. We would handle business against Arizona State and we would feel unstoppable. This would be one of the most frustrating games of the season. And even though it was nice seeing our 5-star freshman making some plays, I was starting to get concerned as my son Shedeur was starting to take some big hits and the O-line wasn't doing a great job of protecting him. So he would have to start making some questionable throws, but at least Caleb Fourier would bail him out with this incredible catch, which would lead to a Jordan Tyson touchdown. But the Bruins were going stride for stride with us. I could sense that my team was starting to get complacent because after blowing out our last few opponents, we weren't giving the Bruins the respect that they deserved. Multiply that lack of respect with a bad week of practice, and Shedeur was starting to make questionable decisions all game. And for the 3rd straight possession, this freak interception would set the Bruins up into scoring position. And we would get to answer the question who would win in a fight, a Buffalo or a Bear, because we were starting to get violated by UCLA, but at least this hit by 5-star freshman was nice to see. But the 4th interception of the game by Shedeur wasn't. We didn't even get to the tough part of our schedule, which included 5 top 25 teams, 3 of which were in the top 7. After falling to UCLA, we would be 3rd in the Pac-12 South behind Utah and USC, and Shedeur was looking to bounce back from one of the worst games of his career. Washington State would do a great job of stopping the run, but they couldn't get a handle on Jordan Tyson, who was cooking their DBs with double moves all day. And Caleb Fourier was quietly establishing himself as the second best receiving option on this team, as we would get the other tight end Eric Olsen involved with an arrow route that would score. And after a quarter of play, we were up 21 on Washington State. We were embarrassed after last week's loss to UCLA, so when the defense and offense started clicking on the same page, I had a sigh of relief. And as long as Jordan Tyson was making contested catches like this one, and Shedeur was dominant up like he has been, I had a good feeling we could run the table and still make it into the college football playoff, behind the #1 scoring offense in the country. We went into our matchup with Arizona knowing that we needed to show out so we can have a chance of making it into the playoffs. So we made sure we didn't settle for a field goal on 4th and 3 while we were in their territory, and we got the ball into the hands of the dead leg king, Jordan Tyson, who's been cooking all season long. And with throws like these, I could see a world where Shedeur will be in the conversation for the Heisman. I was loving the fact that we were getting our tight ends involved in the offense, and I was starting to feel like the 2011 Patriots with Gronk and Hernandez, minus the part where one of them was a killer. Allegedly, of course. But Shedeur was playing out of his mind, and he would throw for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. And the Pac-12 was starting to look like the new SEC, with Washington, USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Oregon all ranked in the top 10. We were taking on the Cal Golden Bears, and if UCLA were Brown Bears, Cal was more like Winnie the Pooh, or maybe like the Charmin Bear. Soft as hell. But I guess some of their players were on scholarship just like mine, because they weren't going down without a little bit of a fight. But ultimately, they didn't have enough NIL money to compete with my team. And we would continue to have big play after big play as Shedeur would connect with Jordan Tyson on this long catch, which would set up the very next play, the catch of the year and a SportsCenter top 10 play. As we took a 17-point lead into the half, and Jalen Stryker was starting to look like one of the best defensive players in the country. And Shedeur would throw for 5 touchdown passes in this rout of the Cal Teddy Bears, just in time for the first playoff rankings of the season. This will be the wildest game of the season, as we traveled to the Coliseum to take on the #4 ranked USC Trojans. And Caleb Williams came back for his senior season to try and win the national championship. And with these types of explosive plays, I was really starting to get nervous, especially since Shedeur couldn't keep up with the arm talent of Caleb Williams. And both of these interceptions would lead to touchdowns for the Trojans, as we were fighting for our lives trying to stay in this one. And it definitely didn't help that when Shedeur was making the right throws, the receivers were dropping the balls, like teenage boys going through puberty. Just before the half, Shedeur had a chance to tie it up, but would fumble it going into the end zone. And after Shedeur had 3 turnovers at the half, I would rip into him, and I would make sure we fed Deion Smith going into the 4th quarter. He would give us the lead back, but not for long, as Caleb Williams would connect with Mario Williams for their second touchdown of the day. And on 4th and 22, we couldn't muster up any more magic, and I didn't think the playoffs were possible. For the second game in a row, we had a matchup against a top 5 opponent, and they got on our ass early with this play action pass that went for a touchdown. And with Jordan Tyson, our leading receiver, out for the rest of the game, we had to lean on Deion Smith heavily, as well as guys I didn't even know were on our team, to be honest. And thankfully, our tight ends would continue to hold it down. And if Caleb Fourier had another couple of games like this one, he was sure to get all the HOEs on campus. And it was about time our defense started contributing and playing lights out, led by Jalen Stryker, one of the best defensive players in the country. And he could do it all. And once Caleb Fourier heard that the better he played, the more women he was going to get, he really took his game to another level. And after a convincing beating of the #4 team in the country, we were somehow back in the playoff picture. This part of our schedule was really starting to feel like a gauntlet, because we had another top 10 opponent, this time against Oregon, who we played in a double overtime thriller last year. And I just knew Caleb Fourier got the HOEs on campus because his touchdown streak continued. And Shedeur was using his athleticism to his advantage and was looking like his daddy out there. And then this run by the Oregon quarterback was giving me Bo Nix flashbacks from last season. So I knew we couldn't take the foot off the gas pedal. And the dead leg king Jordan Tyson was finally back from his injury. And with Oregon trying to score just before the half, they would throw this beautiful pass, but it would get ripped out of his hands by Kalen Moore. As we held him to a field goal and went into the half up by 11, Caleb Fourier would make 4 Oregon defenders look silly out there, which would set us up for a Deion Smith touchdown. And Shedeur wanted in on the fun himself, so he made this dude touch the ground. But this Oregon team was too talented, and they just wouldn't go away as they cut the lead to a touchdown. And after this incredible interception, I was expecting to go to overtime with Oregon for the 2nd straight year, but our defense will hold it down and tackle them just short of the sticks. A huge win. This was the game of the year, and even though neither of us had a chance at competing for for the Pac-12 championship, the winner of this game would likely make it into the playoffs. But it was looking scary early because Utah's quarterback Jackson was running like his first name was Lamar, as he would single-handedly bring his team all the way down the field to the goal line and then run it in himself. And with our receivers getting popped like this, we had to settle for a field goal early on, and Utah's high-powered offense would continue to click as Jackson would find his receiver down the sideline who would take it all the way to give them a 14-3 lead to end the first. But Eric Olsen was starting to get jealous of how many HOEs Caleb Fourier was getting on campus, so he wanted in on the action. And after going for 2 and getting it, the next possession we would score a quick touchdown to give us the lead, as we were figuring out Jackson and the high-powered Utah offense. And we would start to look to Deion Smith to churn out the tough yards that we needed, including this 4th and goal touchdown that would essentially put the game on ice. And even though we weren't going to have a chance to play for the Pac-12 championship, this top 5 win was crucial for our playoff resume, as Deion Smith would come in 5th in Heisman voting, and Jalen Stryker would have a hat trick in the award department. Brian Ryan, the 6'6" 5-star safety, was a freshman All-American. The SEC and the Pac-12 would load up the college football playoffs, as we were getting ready to take on a loaded Alabama team, and we were both top 2 in the country in scoring offense, so I figured this was going to be a shootout. But we were hounding Bryce Young early, and we were leaning on our Heisman finalist Deion Smith to put in pain for us. And after taking this kick return all the way for a touchdown, it felt like we were unstoppable as we were firing on all cylinders, offense, defense, and special teams. And this touchdown by Jordan Tyson, our best receiver all season, would put us up big at the half, and it would be more of the same in the second half. And I couldn't believe that we had just taken down Alabama to go to the national championship. I told Nick Saban better luck next year as I shook his hand, and I would raise the trophy up with my son. So it was time to watch and see who we would play in the national championship. The game started off looking like Ole Miss was going to dominate, but Caleb Williams and Mario Williams would connect on 2 straight touchdown passes to give them the lead. And this one-handed touchdown catch by Jordan Addison would seal the win for USC, and we realized we had a rematch of Week 9 for the Natty. This national championship game was a shootout early on, as Caleb Williams would connect with Brendan Rice, the Hall of Famer's son, and Mario Williams, his favorite receiver. But I made sure I dialed up the best plays I could for my son Shador to go out there and execute, and it definitely helped that our receivers were going up and getting the ball like this. And after a beautifully run post-corner double move, we would take a 2-touchdown lead on USC, a talented team that we had lost to by 4 points earlier in the season, and we would quickly be reminded just how dangerous they were. And after Shador tried to force this pass to try and get us some points before the half, USC would leverage it into a field goal. The way I felt after this catch and run by Mario Williams must have been how the Avengers felt fighting Thanos. This man had all the Infinity Stones and wouldn't go down. But I was a Magnum kind of guy, as we burst the Trojans' condom. I didn't expect to win the national championship in my second year at Colorado. I thought it would take at least 4 to 5 seasons. If you got this far and enjoyed the video at all, please consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. Find me on all socials, Yadded Rambo, and stay tuned for more videos.